We are live. Okay, hello everybody. Hey. All right, there we go. Right, there we go. Share it. I always have this problem with sharing it. Hey y'all. All right, got everything shared. Hey Bree. It's gonna be a good conversation tonight, y'all. Y'all are not ready for all the stuff we got to talk about tonight. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. Hey. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and get started. The people will come in. They'll start trickling in, and there are some people that watch it after the fact. So this is too good for us to carry it any longer because I really want to get it. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. So yeah, I'm just gonna start from here. So my name is Siobhan Carter. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Siobhan Carter. Welcome to Relationship Conversations. I am the You Relationship Coach, which means I am passionate about all things relationships, especially the relationship that you have with yourself. And tonight I have a special guest joining me, Miss Saralyn Suggs. Do you want to say anything just to introduce yourself to the people, Sarah?
Yeah, my name is Sarah. I, like Siobhan, I definitely care about people. Relationships is something that I'm very passionate about. My background is in mental health. And I'm very focused on domestic violence and grief counseling. So this is right up my alley. When I saw your post talking about stalking, this was a topic that hit very close to home for me. And I reached out to you. So thank you for inviting me in and, allowing me to share this story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I've been hearing about, we see it in the news a lot with domestic violence situations and stalking situations. And then I was hearing about this TV series on Netflix called You. And that really sparked something within me. And people were talking about it and talking about it being about stalking. So I was like, okay, well, let me watch this show. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So that show, and if you've never seen the TV series, I might spoil some of it for you just for the sake of setting up this conversation. But the series You is about a man named Joe. He works in a bookstore, and he meets this young lady named Beck. She's a graduate school student, and she meets him, and in the store she comes in, she's looking for a book, and he just becomes immediately intrigued by her. And so he's talking in his head throughout the TV series. You hear him talking to himself in his head. So it's like you can hear his thoughts. And he's sizing her up and just trying to see what type of person she is. He's analyzing her. They have some friendly banter and just a little bit of flirting going on. She's smiling and that kind of stuff. And he takes those as signs that she likes him or that she wants to be with him. So when she pays with her credit card, he gets her name and he's like, oh, she wants me to know her name. She's doing all these things because she wants to know me. And so he takes that and literally runs with all of that information. He starts stalking her. He finds out where she lives, and he just starts studying her life without her even knowing it. He stands outside her house every day and he gathers information about her. And he's just analyzing everything about her. He's taking mental notes, how she operates, the kind of people that she interacts with, the kind of men. So he's basically just reading her because how she acts. So he begins to follow her, and he follows her one night, and he creates an opportunity to meet her again. And so they meet, and then it just actually turns into a relationship, but she doesn't understand that she is in a relationship with a psychopath. And so it really takes on a life of its own from there. And it's just a toxic relationship, and it's just bizarre what happens in the end. So yeah, so it not only happens in the movies, but as you were talking about, Sarah, that of a situation where something just as bizarre happened in real life. So why don't you tell us about what happened to your friend?
Yeah, so sorry, I'm about to lose a headphone. What happened to my girlfriend wasn't a traditional stalking situation. When we think, or when most people think about stalking, they think about a relationship that soured, one person just couldn't let go, or you were in this abusive marriage and the person has to leave. But my girlfriend's situation wasn't like that at all. It wasn't a long, drawn out stalking situation. It was something that happened very quickly. It escalated extremely fast. And, before we knew it, she was in a particularly life-threatening situation. My girlfriend was out one day, and she caught happy hour dinner with a couple of her girlfriends at a DMV restaurant. And during the course of them eating, this gentleman came up and approached them and tried to engage them into conversation. And my girlfriend really wasn't even interacting with him. She was with two other young ladies. Those young ladies kind of interacted with him in conversation, and he eventually left the table. They thought that was the end of it. When they left, they walked outside. Their car was parked right in front of the restaurant, and he was waiting for them. And he came off just sincere, like, oh, I'm just so captivated by your beauty, and I just want to get to know you, and if you'll just give me an opportunity. My girlfriend still wasn't interested. It was actually her friend that gave this man my girlfriend's phone number, her contact information. So she actually put her phone number into his cell phone.
So the friend is like, girl, don't be like that. Give the man your number.
Exactly. Give him a chance. You never know. He's so nice. He's so persistent. Girl, he waited for us, just, those kinds of things, the guilt tripping, the guilt trip, exactly. That we like.
Yeah.
Right. And, what they're really saying is, I wish I had this opportunity to date this guy, but since you don't want me, I want you to do everything you can to do this for us.
Right.
That was kind of the situation that, she put my girlfriend in. So the next day she got a phone call from, a number she didn't know. She answered it. It turns out to be this guy. They had a very quick conversation. I think she was still at work or something like that. And I think she mentioned, I get off at 5. At 5 o'clock, he was calling right back, on the dot. Again, she engaged in a brief conversation, but it was kind of like hey, well, I'm about to get on the metro. I don't have good service, so I'm not going to be able to talk. Very short, abbreviated conversation. In the following 1 or 2 days, he continued to try to reach out to her. At this point, she really wasn't answering his phone calls, and she noticed that he was calling right at 5 o'clock every single day, that he figured that she was getting off from work. And, it was at that point that I think that she started feeling like, wait a minute, this guy is being a little bit too aggressive.
Yeah.
So they engaged in this casual conversation, and she made a plan with him to meet up with him at a college homecoming that weekend. She knew that a bunch of her girlfriends, me being one of them, was going to be with her that weekend. And it was kind of like, hey, well, if you want to see me so bad, this is where I'm going to be. You can come if you want, kind of situation. So that day of the homecoming, I went to her house beforehand, and I noticed that her phone was just like ringing. And I was
like he's calling back to back?
Back to back. Like as soon as her voicemail came on, he must have been calling right back. Like I was like, does this guy have like 2 phones? Like how is he calling like this?
Right.
Eventually I answered the phone, you know, because she was kind of like telling me like, oh, it's this guy that, you know, I met, you know, last week. And at that point, I was kind of thinking to myself, you know, this is weird, you know? So we go to this, you know, homecoming event, and, you know, when she introduced us to this guy, I just instantly was like, Like I just got an instant vibe off of him. Wow. That, you know, this guy just was just not going to be good news.
And you could sense it. Like what, it was just an energy. Like, was he acting a certain way? What did you pick up on?
Initially, it was just like his initial energy. I think that we're all gifted with that little voice, that little, you know, I'm not how spiritual your crowd is, but I think it is that voice of God that will step in and intercede on your behalf. You know, we all have that little something that says, hey, pay attention. Hey, this might not be right. And I instantly was like, I don't like this guy, you know? And we had a very brief interaction with him that day. And in fact, we ended up leaving from, you know, where we were because he got into a verbal altercation with some other guy who just happened to say hi to my girlfriend.
Come on.
Yeah. So when that happened, I was like, we don't even know this guy. We're out of here. So we all left. We ended up going someplace else, and he continued to call her that day, the next day, the next day. The problem is that at this point, he was aware that my girlfriend threw parties. That was one of the things that her and her brother did. They threw parties. Okay. And he was aware because we were up there promoting one of her parties. That was one of the reasons why we're at that homecoming event, that she was having a party coming up. So the plan was, you know, that night, this is now day 12, you know, of this situation. You know, day 12 happens. It's time for her party. It was 4 of us that were planning on riding with her to the party in her vehicle. Okay. We were coming from Prince George's County, and the party was in Baltimore. Okay. But leaving from Prince George's County, we were running late, and we just said, hey, we'll meet you at the venue because we're running late. We don't have enough time to like come out to your house and all that. We'll just meet you there. So we went to the venue, you know, we were having a nice time. This guy eventually shows up, and at this point, you know, everybody is kind of aware of who he is, and you know, that he's been, you know, acting very very aggressively. He's been, you know, presenting stalking-like behavior. And that evening, her brother was there, and also a cousin. Okay. And they tried to kind of intercede on her behalf. Again, he was being kind of aggressive, wanting to have like a conversation with her. And, you know, even though she was telling him, you know, hey, I'm just not here for that. I'm working tonight. You know, he just would not take no for an answer. And they, you know, at the end of the evening, you know, things had kind of gotten riled up so much that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get out of here because I don't know, you know, when it's time to go home. I was just kind of like, I'm out of here. And plus we were going all the way back to PG County. At this point, it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So we leave, and I get home and I'm asleep, and maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, I get like a hysterical phone call from my girlfriend where this individual has he followed her brother. He didn't know it was her brother. Her brother was actually driving her vehicle. Okay. She got a ride with someone else because we weren't coming. She didn't drive. And he stepped out of his car in front of her house, and he emptied a 9mm clip into her truck. 17 shots. My God. So at the time, the vehicle was being occupied by her brother and her brother's friend. Neither one of them were hit. I mean, there was nothing but God that protected them. Because he was point blank shooting from the middle of the street right into their truck. And, you know, neither one of them were hit. Oh my God. So, of course she's calling me, she's hysterical, the police are telling her she's got to get out of there. She doesn't, have any place to go. And, I'm just like, where is this guy? I don't want you to bring this guy to my house, so at 4:00 in the morning, I'm getting up, I'm meeting her on the parkway, we're switching cars, she's getting out of a taxi, I'm putting her into another car, and she ended up coming and staying at my house for maybe about 6 months. She lived with me because she was, of course, totally scared to go back to her house. This guy was still out there, right? He knows where she lives, he knows where she drives. He's picked up some casual stuff about her through conversation. She was very fearful for her life, and, she was advised to, relocate someplace else. But who can just pick up and be like, oh, I'm not going to pay my mortgage here anymore. I'm going to go pay it someplace else.
Right.
So, she had to put her house on the market. She had to move. Because it took almost a year for them to actually find him, get him into custody, and have him arrested.
Are you serious? So all of this is going on. So she's had to relocate. Was he still did she have to change her number? Like, was he still trying to contact her through that during that year?
Well, he actually was not trying to contact her.
Okay.
Once the incident with the gun happened, with the shooting incident happened, and they went to the police, and because she only knew him 13 days. This was the 13th day, so she didn't know where he lived. She didn't know what kind of car he drove. She didn't know, where he worked or where they could find him. So they were really functioning on a limited amount of information. And, the police just don't want to pour their resources into some guy shot up my car because he's been stalking me and it's only been 13 days. That sounds extremely outrageous to just a regular person. So you can imagine how the police were feeling about it. They actually victim shamed her. They thought that maybe her and her brother were involved in some type of drug deal gone wrong, and that's why their car had gotten shot up like that. So it was really her and her brother being their own advocates to find out who this guy was, call on a favor that they weren't supposed to get, but, finding somebody who worked at the phone carrier to find out his information, to actually be able to ID this guy. And once they, took his ID back to the police, he was actually known to the police department. He was a known criminal. He wasn't just a domestic violence abuser, because he had a young lady that he had stalked and abused prior, but he was like a heroin drug lord in Baltimore who was extremely well known to the police, and they had been trying to get him for many years on a variety of different charges, drug and violence, crimes, charges, but they could never get him. So because of this incident with my girlfriend, that gave them the leverage that they needed to be able to get a warrant to go into his house. And of course, by going into his house looking for the gun involved in the situation with my girlfriend, they found money and drugs and, paraphernalia and other things, which they felt was the stronger case. And, they proceeded in that case with him.
Wow. That is,
it's crazy.
And just to think that this happened in 13 days. So it's like there was, she didn't engage in a relationship with him. It wasn't like you said, the typical case that we hear about a lot is where, you're in a relationship with somebody and then you get out of it and then they don't want to let you go type thing. But he didn't even know her, No. So this is coming into it with some type of psychological, something was going on. Something wasn't right.
Yeah, it wasn't until way after the fact that my girlfriend learned from the police that the young lady that he previously stalked and my girlfriend favored each other. They had a physical likening to each other. And they felt that because she had gotten away, the previous girlfriend had gotten away from the relationship. And he now met my friend and became fixated on her because she reminded him of the previous girl, or she looked like the previous girl. And that was really what the immediate fixation was. It wasn't necessarily her. It was the fact that she resembled this other young lady.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that you bring that up, because in the movie or in the series, even though he was stalking this young lady, Beck, he was still thinking about the first girlfriend that he had prior to her, who hurt him, who ended up getting with someone else, cheating on him, and it just really hurt his heart. And then he did some crazy things for that woman in that relationship. And so I think it was something that reminded him of this previous girlfriend, because he, they would recall times when she would still be in his mind, and they would play scenarios. But it's interesting how, it's not even about this current person that you're with, but it's reminding you of something else. And I want to point out, for those who are watching, like, we're not talking about this to just put fear in you and to make you scared, especially if you're single and you're dating. We're not trying to scare you and make you stay in the house. Because, everybody's not crazy. Everybody's not trying to stalk you, but we just want to raise awareness, because this is a reality of some things that happen, in our culture right now. So we just want to raise awareness of just have this conversation, because it's real. This happens. So what would you say, with you having a mental health background, what would you say is going on in the mind of someone who is stalking, that's exhibiting these kind of behaviors? What in the world?
I mean, it can really be a lot of things. It isn't just one thing. Usually, a lot of things result from like childhood trauma. Maybe they didn't have friends. Maybe they didn't do a lot of dating. Maybe they've endured a lot of rejection. Maybe they've gotten rejected by the same type of person, or who they perceive as the same type of person. So usually, with stalking situations, it's not really about you. It's really about whatever it is that they're fixated on. And, with that person, again, it's not even about feelings, not about emotions, it's about control. And maybe there's aspects of their life that are out of control, and this is one way that they can get control, is by gaining control over someone else. For whatever reason, it stirs up some type of gratification within them to be able to have power and control over someone else. So, it's never really about anything other than that.
And it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what happened in the TV series too. He had been abused, like I don't know what happened to his parents, but he was taken in by someone else, and the man was just abusive towards him. He would lock him up in the bookstore in the basement, in this little room where he couldn't get out, and just was very mean to him. And so I guess that's where it started to develop, where he felt like he lost control. So he wanted to definitely be in control of these women and be that knight in shining armor that they needed, and that their life couldn't, or function without him. So he wanted to be that one that they depended on. Even when he saw that there were people getting in his way, as far as her friends, if she was becoming too dependent on them, then he would do some things to make sure that she turned to him. So it's just, So when you mention that about the control, it's like, man, that's exactly what they were pointing out in the show. So Desiree was saying she's just going to be single for life, like with points. So what would you say to those who are hearing this and it's like, this is crazy, this is scary, I don't want to chance it, I love my life? Like, what words of encouragement would you give to those people?
I mean, let me just say my girlfriend is fine. Okay. She's perfectly fine. Her mental health, she's fine. This is something that she thinks about, as far as educating. She has 2 daughters. So this is just a tool, this is an instant that she's going to use to be able to educate her daughters, to educate other people. When I told her that this was an option, that I could come on to your podcast and discuss this, she was extremely supportive. She said that, she really wanted to push the message that, everybody out here isn't a bad person. Everybody out here doesn't have ill intentions. However, when you're presented with a situation where you instantly feel like there could be something wrong, act upon it. as instantly as you feel it, and don't really fall victim to our own things, our need to be polite, our wanting not to hurt someone's feelings or to give someone a chance, or, submitting to peer pressure from our friends. They think it's a good idea. Our family thinks it's a good idea, so we do it. Just not really playing into that, is what she wants to say. But definitely get out here, have a good time, but just do it responsibly, Don't just roll out, let one of your girlfriends know. I'm all about having a power circle, you know what I mean? If you're going to be going on a date, hey, drop me your tag number, drop me his name, just let me know where you're going to be. Those types of things are important. It's not about having people in your business, it's just about having a layer of protection around you.
Yeah.
That's what your friends and family are for. So that's really my best advice. Definitely go out, live your life, have a good time, have as many experiences as you can, positive experiences, y'all. Positive, as you can.
Yeah.
There's hope out there for relationships. There are a lot of good, wonderful people who are looking for a positive relationship.
Yeah.
Be open to that. And, but if it's not there, don't force it if it doesn't fit. That's my thing.
And I love what you said. All of that and just so many things that we can take from that. One is just to follow our gut, follow that instinct. Like you said, we all have it. And it's just honoring it and following it. Sometimes we ignore it, we stuff it down, or we want something so bad that we, don't pay attention to it, but we have it for a reason. And so it's important for us to really follow that, even if it means that, okay, I won't go any further with this person, but you could be saving yourself from a lifetime of trauma and just having to work through all this stuff, if you continue to go with them. And then also friends. Like, one of the things that is important to me is, one, when I meet somebody, I tell my friends about it so we can Google him, because it's just, we just nosy. One, especially if he has a social media page, we want to get a feel for him. So it's like, girl, this is his name, what you see, because a lot of times we can be in a situation where we don't see it, but our girlfriends see it,
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was going to say, most importantly, like you said, follow your gut instinct. If it feels wrong in the beginning, it's wrong. It's not going to get any better, Number two, definitely have a power circle. For one thing, I know I'll say the women that I know, we have a tendency to kind of try to keep something a secret, if it's good to us and it's doing good, we don't want to jinx it. We don't want to tell people about it, and so we don't know, so if something happens or we can't find you or whatever, we don't even know where to look. We don't even know who to even start with because you haven't even introduced them. So don't keep it a secret, have your power circle, have your family, invite him out. Invite your family out, invite your friends out, and just let them know this is what I do. If there's a problem with that, then okay, I guess I'm just not the person for you. But for this first date, we're going to go to my family reunion.
Everybody going to check you out,
right? Right. We're going to go to this class reunion. We're going to go to church. We're going to go to my friend's birthday party where, a lot of my friends and my people who really care about me are going to be. And then, everyone just has to have that go-to friend or friends that you just give license to give you honest, true feedback.
Absolutely.
And it just has to be that way. Sometimes there's going to be things that you don't want to hear, but it's the things that, you need to hear. And like you said, there's going to be a totally different perspective from a friend or from a family member than it would from that person who's in it.
Right.
I instantly got a vibe off of this guy instantly. And I instantly communicated that to my friend. Like, I don't like this guy, and, I see this, I see that, I see this. But unfortunately, in my friend circle, it's like, Sarah's the shrink, Sarah's the counselor. So
but you need that though, because you can see things.
They're always like, I don't know if this is your professional opinion or your personal opinion. So, but, sometimes you just have to, allow that person to have license and just to give you positive. And then, like you said, use your resources, okay?
Yes.
Google,
Yep.
get on social media, see what these people are talking about, get on their state law cases to see if there's any active cases. Do they have a bunch of tickets? So he don't know how to drive, he got parking tickets, whatever, you know, him, her, she, whoever, you know, just go out there and look. If you have a, you know, a police friend, hey, can you run a name for me? True talk, you know, this is, I got lucky, you know, my brother has police friends and hey, can you run this name? You know, and that got me out of a couple of situations. Not really, you know, not really big things, but I mean, if you got a warrant for child support or something like that, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Right. Because it says a lot, you know, and not that we're trying to judge people for their past, but I want to know these things. It's free data. Now, you know, I can have it in my little notebook, writing it down. And then if you choose to share it with me, then that's great. Then it means that you're an open book, because I'm already found out, but are you going to tell me, you know? So it's just one of those things. Some people say, well, you shouldn't have to do all that. You should just ask. And you know, if that's how you work, but I'm nosy. I'm nosy. I'm an auditor by trade. So I want to do research. I'm paid to do research. So it's too tempting for me to meet somebody and just not do anything with that information. I mean,
my thing is, if you post it, you want people to look at it. So I'm looking at it. I'm looking. And if you didn't want me to know that you had a record, you wouldn't have did what you did. So
exactly. So, you know,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. So a lot of people are on here saying, you know, talk to your police friends. So Anya says a common practice with her squad is license plate name, etc. Yep. Run the preliminary check, Google search, case search. I'm telling you, the court case search is your friend. Yeah,
yes,
you can find out a lot of things from court case. So full investigation. And you know, in this day and time, there's so much technology at our fingertips. Like, just I don't know if
the thing is
Well,
the important thing is the right person won't be offended by that.
Right.
So I told my husband, I was like, look, I Googled you, I case searched you, I asked people, I talked about you, I did all of that, you know, and I listened to what everybody had to say. You know, of course, at the end of the day, it's my decision, but I'm a fool not to utilize those types of resources when you're making such an important decision.
Absolutely.
If you're talking about having a real commitment with somebody, you should know every single thing.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you know, you don't trust them or anything like that. It's just like, in the beginning, I gotta protect myself now. I gotta see what's going on.
I gotta see what's going on. And this is for both sides. So men, we're telling you to do the same thing. Google these women, find out what are they up to? What have they been up to? You know, and like I said, it's not necessarily holding everything against them to where you're writing them off, you know, just by this information, unless it's something that is a deal breaker for you. But also give the person an opportunity to, you know, give yourself an opportunity to get to know who they are and give them an opportunity to show you and tell you who they are. It's just it's just an opportunity to make an informed decision.
Right. And I mean, you don't have to say, because I was in your case file and I was looking you up, you know, you don't have to do that. You know, that's kind of rude. But you could be like, you know, hey, you know, what's been the hardest thing you had to deal with in your past? You know, have you ever had a situation where, you know, you got arrested, you know, you know, just because you got arrested or something happened or whatever, doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Doesn't mean that you can't be a good partner. Doesn't mean that you can't be a good friend. It could be an isolated incident. We've all made bad mistakes. We've all made a poor judgment. It just so happened that the police weren't there when I did it, you know? You know, I don't hold those kinds of things necessarily against somebody, but it's something that I should know.
Right.
You know, it's, you know, especially if we're going to be considering a serious relationship.
Absolutely. So let's talk about those people who may be paranoid. So I know we talked about we're not trying to scare anybody, but somebody that may over analyze or over research to where they are talking themselves out of, you know, even getting to know. What would you say to that person who is just, you know, checking everything to where it's like you are just really paranoid in this dating scene?
Yeah, you might not be all the way ready to start dating. You know, if you're going a little too overboard, or if you're a little too zealous into someone's past and things that they've done before, maybe you're just not ready. There might be something inside you that you need to work on when it comes to your trust, or when it comes to, building relationships. So I would probably say that person's not quite ready for a serious relationship. Maybe some fun dating, maybe something like that, but not like a serious relationship. A relationship is definitely about trust. So, of course, in anything, use some restraints.
Yeah.
Don't be sitting outside his job or his house or going through his mailbox. Okay.
Right. Because then you become the stalker. Right.
Exactly.
So, and I wanted to lift that up because I've heard women say, well, I just need to find out. I just need to know. But sometimes it is those trust issues that you go looking for information just so that you can support how you already feel or the perception that you already have about men. You know what I mean? So it's like,
exactly.
On one hand, it's good information to have so that you can know and make an informed decision. But on another hand, it can also fuel more trust issues if you haven't dealt with that,
Exactly. I mean, there comes a time where you can't fact check everything that someone says, so you should be going through their phone and checking their emails and stuff like that, because now you're displaying, negative behavior. Going to any relationship, you want to make sure that as much baggage as you could have shed from your previous relationship as possible is important, so that you're going into it with experience, like, hey, this is something I've seen before and I can look out for. But you're not going into it with like a preconceived notion or some type of agenda or plan, like, this is what I'm going to do with every single person that I meet because of what happened with X, Y, and Z. You never want somebody else to pay for a crime that they didn't commit,
Right.
So, and in the end, you're really just sabotaging all the good things that you could have going forward. So
yeah. And that's what I want you to take away. Those who are watching, who are single and, in the dating world, what I want you to take away from this, like I said, we're not trying to scare anybody or make you paranoid about dating. We just want to raise awareness that these kind of things happen. So just be careful and, use caution, and to also understand that this is not a representation of all men in the world. There are so many great guys out there that you can meet and form beautiful relationships with. So I want you to know that this is a balanced conversation. Even though we're highlighting this, I don't want you to take away that you can't trust men. Everybody's crazy. They're going to stalk you. So that's why, you're going to stay single for life. Like, please don't take that away from this conversation.
No, this is 100% a PSA. 100%.
Yes, absolutely. So Anya says, what about when you search and find nothing?
What about it?
Yeah, when you just search and you're looking and looking and you just can't find anything.
Well, you know what? Kudos.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds like you went and got yourself out your squeaky clean. So amazing. So either they're utilizing a fake name or they're squeaky clean. So right. I would just go with they're squeaky clean. If you don't find anything, then it's good. But always follow up with questions. And I don't really feel like you can ask too many questions, too much of an embarrassing question, too much of a personal question. I guess it all just depends on what's the seriousness of your relationship. Right. You're just meeting somebody. It's get to know questions. But if we're talking serious, we done went to K's and you didn't talk to Jared and all that, and you didn't talk to my mama, my daddy, or somebody like that, then, that's when I need to be asking you some real serious questions.
Right.
And then hopefully you've built a relationship where that person will give you honest answers.
Yeah. And I would say that's when, if you're doing research and you didn't find anything, that's when, if that voice is still coming up that's telling you, girl, you can't trust that, that's probably an indicator that there's something unresolved within you as it relates to trust. Because it's like, what is in you that's making it hard to believe that there is nothing out there about him? You know what I mean? Like, what's that about? So it's really not about him. It's about why can't you embrace that? Like, what's keeping you from embracing that he could just be a good guy, Right.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, I think that sometimes we do sabotage.
Yeah.
Either before the relationship even starts by, looking at somebody and making a quick judgment about them, and then just feeding off of that throughout the duration of the relationship. So just, I would say for anybody, just be as open as possible. The package that your person comes in just might not be what you thought. Maybe you never thought you were going to get with a government worker. Maybe you never thought you were going to be with wannabe comedian, or you just never know. The person that you end up with just might not be the person that you thought you were going to end up with. At least definitely in my case. And I can say it with a lot of my friends, the people that they married or they ended up with were definitely not the guys that we were chasing around, Googling and looking up. Wow. They ended up getting with somebody totally, totally different. So, just be open.
So I want to touch on that, because that I think that will help a lot of people. So how do you get to the point where you're not so tied to what you think or who you think you should be with, or the type of guy, so that you can be open to maybe he's going to come in a different package? Like how do you make that adjustment?
I mean, again, it's like a realistic, honest look at yourself. Like, has it worked so far? You know what I mean?
Right.
I know for, has it worked?
How's it working for you? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know for me, full disclosure, I used to like date the same kind of guy. Wow. He had the same general body look, he had the same kind of personality, the ex, sporty kind of guy, and, with that personality, comes other things. Not only are they aggressive and competitive when it comes to sports, but they were also aggressive and competitive when it came to relationships. And, that for somebody like me, who's comes from an aggressive, sporty background and that kind of stuff, that was just conflict all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it took a long time for me to be like, hey, girl, maybe you might want to do something else, you know. And I had a really good, honest conversation with an older mentor. That's another thing. Get you some older women in that group now. Get them in that circle. Older women, they, that are willing to mentor you and to talk to you and that can tell you something. And, it came to them being like, it sounds to me like you need to do something else, know? And I was like, all right, well, so I started going to different places. Maybe I'm not just going to sports bars. Maybe I'm going to the opera, or, don't be afraid of a hookup. Don't be afraid of, somebody saying, hey, I met this person. My friends started doing that. We started meeting people that we thought would be good for somebody else. And we would say, hey, I got a friend. Here's her picture. Cell phones are great. I think that you guys would be a good match. We did that too.
Yeah, it's like scouts, having scouts go out and
Why not? What could it hurt? I've got a couple of friends that have met people on dating websites and they've gotten married, they've got kids.
Yeah.
So there's so many different ways that you can meet somebody, and just don't be caught up in the package and how they present themselves, just because you always thought you were going to marry somebody with a college degree or somebody with a white collar job, or something like that. You could meet somebody with a different path that, went through the military, or they went into a trade. They became a mechanic and they started their own business, their own air conditioning business, their own their own electricity business or whatever. So you just never know. Just definitely give people a chance, and just don't rely on what you've done before because you feel like it's comfortable, or that's what you need. That's not what you need.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
Right.
And I love that you're sharing that if what you've been doing isn't working for you, be open to doing something different. Like, to me, that's a message. Like, and it it's also the looking introspectively, like what's really going on with me that I keep attracting this, or that I'm so focused on this type of person, like what's really happening. So I love that you took a look and even consulted your mentor, those who have been around for a while, who have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, the pants and everything to go with it, and just have seen things and can share some wisdom, some words of wisdom with you, because I think that's important for us to take a look at. Like, if I'm used to light-skinned dudes, and if that's all I'm going after, well, what if this nice chocolate brother comes along? So I'm not going to give him a chance because I'm so focused on a light-skinned dude. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
As my cousin says, so Desiree says, so I guess she's thinking about the things that we're talking about. And my cousin says, sometimes you have to lower your standards. Yeah, and it's not even a negative.
It's not necessarily a lower your standard.
It
just might be allowing other things to meet your standard.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, like going back to the college degree, I came from a family with everybody had a degree. Everybody has multiple degrees.
Yeah.
So I just figured that's who I was going to marry, someone who went to college, worked hard, and got these degrees.
Yeah.
Well, but there are people out here that don't go to college. They go directly into the military. Yeah. They start working a career at 17 or 18 years old. They're out traveling the world. They're out protecting our country. And they're building up just as much life experience and having, just as much impact on the world as I'm trying to have by having these degrees.
Yeah.
And, they can definitely, so when I kept missing that person, because I'm looking for somebody who has my same, ideals when it comes to education, it might not be that they didn't have that ideal, just maybe they just didn't want to do that, at that time. Maybe they couldn't afford it. Maybe, they haven't been exposed to it, so they don't know the value of college. Maybe no one in their family went to college. It could be so many other variables. So you don't know why someone makes the decisions that they make, and you're never going to know if you don't give them the opportunity to answer your questions.
Right. And I love what Desiree says, reorganizing your standards. And I would also say that it's reevaluating your standards, because I think sometimes we have standards that, where do they even come from? Like, did it come from, this is just how I was raised, my mama said this is how it should be, or this is, how I was groomed to think? Like, I think it's really challenging all of those beliefs so that we can get to the core of, what do we really want? Like, do I want someone who has degrees? Like, why? What is that? What does them having degrees mean? Am I just looking for security? Like, what is it that I'm really trying to get to? And I think if we really explore that with ourselves, then some things may go off the table, as far as what we really are looking for, or we may have a deeper understanding for what we're looking for. So I'm loving this conversation, because I think just that in and of itself, like you said, if I want a man with degrees, sometimes we get so stuck on that we can't see the brother that is out here hustling, a blue collar worker, but he is doing his thing, so yeah. So be open. So Anya says, have flexibility with standards when applicable. Yeah. Yeah. So this is, I love where this conversation has kind of blossomed into what it's blossomed into, because I think this is at the foundation of a lot of our challenges as women when it comes to dating. Sometimes we're in our own way with the way that we look at dating, with the way that we look at men. So yeah, it's just reevaluating all of that.
Right. You definitely have to do some time of self-evaluation. You have to make sure that you're suitable for a relationship. You're out here judging everybody else and making sure that they have their stuff in line, but is your stuff in line? Are you actually ready to take on the responsibility of being in a serious relationship with someone? Those are things you have to ask yourself, be honest, and then have other feedback from other people. Like, just tell you about myself. Like, one of the things that my mentor first told me, she was just like, girl, if you want to get married, you're going to have to work on that mouth.
Real talk.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Like, you're a lot sometimes. And I was like, really? Like, I'm just a strong Black woman. She's like, no, you're like aggressive, okay?
Wow.
Maybe you might want to dial it down just a little bit, because you can't even hear what someone else is saying, you know?
Wow.
As soon as, you know, someone might say something and it might be like a differing opinion, I was like, what? Whatever. No, you know, and I would just like shut it down. Or, you know, just try to like dominate with my own opinion and my own agenda. And it wasn't until I really dialed that back and allowed other people to communicate their ideals and what they've been through. I started learning about more people. I started learning more stuff. And I was like, wow, this is stuff that I never even, this is a phase of relationships I never even got to, because I was so consumed with, oh, I want somebody who can, you know, play sports with me on the weekends and likes the same teams that I like, and we can go to the sports bar and we can go to games and we can do this. But what if he's not into any of that? And, you know, but he wants to raise a family and he wants to provide and he wants to be caring and he wants to be a cheerleader and, you know, he wants to be supportive. You know, what happened to all those things?
Wow.
So it really was a lot of honest feedback that I got, you know, from some older women who were in my small group at church that, you know, really allowed me to see like, yeah, there's some work that I could be doing on Sarah. And it's definitely been beneficial, and it's definitely things that I need now that I'm married. You know, it's tools that I need that I didn't have when I was dating. And I definitely would have been ill-equipped if I came into a marriage without, you know, having that time.
Yep. This is good, because it's like you said, it's not just about looking at all the stuff that they're doing and what they bring to the table, but looking at ourselves too, you know, and seeing what we need to still deal with. Because a lot of us are still holding on to past relationship hurts, you know, trust issues, daddy issues, all those things that we haven't learned how to manage. You know, for the things that come up. So I'm loving this conversation. So let's see so Desiree said God is going to have to move mountains. Tell us about that. So you feel like it's a whole lot of mountains in your way as far as opening up to a guy. So we're going to see what you say, what you got to say about that. So Anya says, I recently let go of my ideal standards and self-imposed pressure. The journey thus far has been great. And she said, my mom told me God has the man for me. I have to stop being mean and get out of the way. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us use that baggage to like fend people off with it. You know, it's really hard to get close to somebody when they're just like a bowling ball of rolling knives. You know, you really have got to like get to a point where you're going to allow someone to, you know, communicate with you in a way that maybe you've never been communicated with, and be prepared to hear things that you may not want to hear or think that you needed to hear. You know, you just really want to make sure that, you know, you're able to properly communicate and then be able to be properly communicated to. You know, listening is hard.
Yes.
It's hard, you know, especially when your emotions get in it, it's difficult. And a lot of us bring childhood stuff into it. We bring adult baggage into it. You know, all of this happened between my mama and my daddy, or my aunt, my uncle, grandma, whatever. Or I came from a single family. My mom was dating, or my dad was dating, and these were the kind of people that were coming through. And now you bring that into your adulthood, and you know, you're dating the way that you've seen dating, or you're dating the way that you've seen it on TV, or you're dating the way because you don't want to be the way your mother or your father was. You know, there's so many different scenarios to, you know, how this thing can go down. But, you know, the important thing with my girlfriend was that, you know, she just, her culture is to be demure and to be quiet, you know?
Okay.
She's biracial. She's Filipino and Black. And, you know, her culture, you know, to be strong, but to be polite and to be accepting of the attention that you get, even if you don't want the attention, you know, just be accepting and be nice. And, you know, that's something that's a way that I wasn't raised, you know, so I didn't have a problem with being like, I'm not feeling you, dog. I'm just going
right.
to go ahead and do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So, me and her were a good, we're a good balance when it comes to friending and dating,
Yeah, that's hilarious. But that plays a part too. It's like you just got to know who you are, how you're wired, and that's where the friends come in, the family members come in that can help to balance us and just help us to see certain things. I'm like, oh girl, you need to say this or whatever. So yeah, and I love one of the things like in the movie or in the TV series, Beck had 3 girlfriends that she hung out with. And you had 2 that were kind of cool, go along with, and then there was one that was like, no, something ain't right about him. So she was comfortable with sharing when she did. And she told him like, you a little sketchy, So she was very vocal about how she felt about him. And she had some motives that were a little unhealthy, but still she saw some things that were true, about him. And so it's important to have those people in our lives. So what are you saying, Desiree? So, okay, so you're saying you just want to spend time focusing on you so that you're better for him whenever that happens. Got it. Okay. And therapy is great. Like I'm telling you, I love therapy. And I love the fact that you are a mental health professional and just the importance of it. Like a lot of stuff, like you said, childhood trauma, things that we've gone through in our lives that we walk around and don't deal with. And then we wonder why we're having these conflicts and chaos in relationships, because it's all this chaos within ourselves that we haven't healed from, we haven't dealt with, we haven't even acknowledged. And then we take all of that stuff and say, here, love me, be with me. And it's like, well, I don't even know who you are. You don't know who you are. Like, it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, like definitely don't be scared to take things slowly.
Yeah.
Don't feel the pressure. Don't feel like, I think a lot of women in my age range. I don't know how old you are, for real.
I'm 40.
Okay. So boom, here we go, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of women in our age range, Siobhan, might feel, the pressure. You start feeling, you start seeing people around you getting married, and then their kids start coming, and it's just like, dang, so then you do meet somebody, and now we're rushing. We're rushing because we're trying to get it done. Everybody's asking when the big day is. You guys look so good together. You guys are so cute. You're the perfect couple. When really, all they know is what you're posting on social media or what you're choosing to share. So don't be afraid to take things slowly. Don't be afraid to, have a good support system around you that you can communicate what's going on, because maybe you haven't had that experience. Yeah. And when you mention the characteristics or what's going on, someone else can say, hey, that happened to me and that guy ended up being a stalker. If someone could go to my girlfriend now and say, hey, I got this guy, he's calling me back to back to back. I've got this guy, he's making hints that he knows information about me that he shouldn't know. When I tell him that I'm going jogging, he says, are you going to jog around that lake? How do you know there's a lake near my house?
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So, there's, so if you're communicating those types of things that really may not mean anything to you, but you're communicating it to a friend that has had that experience, maybe it wasn't them directly, but maybe it was someone that they know, and they can say, hey, that doesn't really sound right to me. How does he know these things about you? Well, why is he acting this way? Why is he cussing out this guy? Because the guy said that you look pretty, or most guys will just puff their chest out and put their arm around you. That's the great way to respond to it. Hey man, thanks. Right. She is cute, isn't she? Right.
I know that's right.
Right. That's the healthy response that you're looking to get. So if you're getting something contradictory to that, and you're able to communicate that to someone with experience, then they can tell you, hey, that thing doesn't really sound that right. And then, be willing to listen. A lot of us, and I'm not saying that you can take everyone's advice, because you can't. That's why I said a trusted inner circle person that you give permission to, correspond with you in that way about your personal life, and and when someone says, hey, it doesn't look right, or hey, I don't really think that's the person for you, or hey, I'm not really sure, let's hold out on judgment, let's be a little bit slower in the process. Be willing to listen to that, because it could be a valuable situation to just slow down, to give you an opportunity to ask more questions.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned from having been married and being divorced, and then talking to my friends and family after the fact and seeing how fast, I got into that marriage. It was just the importance of taking things slow, like, because I saw how I was, really operating under my own agenda, trying to get somewhere, trying to get married and have kids and all this kind of stuff. So it's like now, as I'm getting older, it's like, okay, yeah, that's not, because I see how important relationships are. I see how important marriage is. So I definitely don't want to go into it haphazardly, you know what I mean? Or just off of emotion, or because I'm trying to accomplish this. It's like, okay, let me deal with myself. Let me see what this is all about, so that I'm not making a decision, flippantly or just out of emotion, because relationships are not a game. So I'm definitely taking my time, and just hope that those watching, whatever your relationship state that you're in, if you're single and desire to be in a relationship, or if you're already in one and just trying to figure out if you're going to go to the next level, definitely take the time to build, a healthy foundation for you and your partner, or even with yourself if you're single. So that you can be as equipped as you can. Like, you're not going to be able to be prepared for everything, but, as equipped as you can, and in the best space that you can be in, as you're moving forward. So, because it is not a game. When you have two people from different backgrounds, imperfect people trying to do life together, it's a lot. So you need all the tools in your toolbox to help.
Yeah. Yes, I agreed.
This thing is serious, like, whoo, Jesus. Because it really just shows you who you are. It's just a mirror. Like, hey, here's something else that you haven't dealt with, or here's another way of looking at things. Like, it stretches you to no end. So, yeah, you really gotta be prepared for it. So,
yeah,
yes,
definitely. Relationships are something that it can take you off. It's just a roller coaster ride. It's just a ride,
Because you can't control the other person, so it's like, Lord. So, yeah.
You cannot control that other person.
No.
In the words of Pastor Jeff, what do you say? Your response is your responsibility.
I still remember that sermon. I'm telling you, taking the high road.
Right,
my response is my responsibility. Like, that's all I can do. Yeah.
Exactly. So you definitely cannot control what someone else is doing the same way they can control what you're doing.
Yeah.
But relationships are fun. Dating is fun. I had a lot of fun dating. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Date all kinds of people, do all kinds of stuff, have as much fun as you possibly can. And then when you decide that, hey, I think it's time for me to settle down, or maybe I'm thinking I might want to get more serious, then give someone that you might not give an opportunity, just to show you, what's up.
Exactly. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I like all the twists and turns that it went into, because I think it was all necessary for us to talk about and lift some things up. And so I hope those who are watching, that you got value from it, that you got something that you could gain as you continue your dating journey, or your single journey, or wherever you are, or even if you're in a relationship, that you glean something from this conversation. So thank you so much, Sarah, for spending time with me tonight and sharing your friend's story. And I'm glad that she's okay, and that this person, this man is off the streets, because Lord knows we don't need more people like that in this world. So I'm glad that justice was served in this situation.
Yes, I am too. It's been a great opportunity. I love being on. Thank you.
Yes.
And just, definitely just encouraging everybody that when you're, dating responsibly, just the way you do anything else,
Absolutely. So thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for commenting. And I do this every Wednesday. So I'm excited about what we have coming up next week. We're going to talk to a man who is a husband and a father and is impacted by this furlough. So we're going to hear from a man's perspective what this is doing to him, to his family, and just how he's coping and dealing with this in these turbulent times. So tune in next week, 8 o'clock. You don't want to miss this conversation. So thank y'all. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, shucks.